I just want to amplify what George Saunders says there to the New York Times. And I have respect for the New York Times. I have a lot of friends who work at the New York Times, as everybody knows. I just can't stand the incredibly biased and unethical coverage of the ongoing situation in historic Palestine. Words that I'm using very strategically and deliberately. It triggers me, and I refuse to be triggered. That's called self-government. But Tony Ducapill, I don't know how to pronounce his name and I don't care to learn, said that he was getting a lot of emails from people saying one thing in contrast to all the people on the street saying something else this week. I thought that's so odd because journalism is not about reporting on emails that people send you, CBS News, which isn't reporting, it's stenography. Journalism is actually about being in public and interviewing people in public and reporting back to the wider public about what the public is saying. And on the other hand, reporting what the elites, what the behind the scenes players are saying in private. Why would we need a news media if it was simply about what people emailing journalists thought? And yet, Tony Ducapill, installed by Barry Weiss, who was installed by, make no mistake, Larry Ellison, who was installed by, wait a minute, Netanyahu was installed by Larry Ellison. Trump was installed by Larry Ellison. I still have 20 seconds left. I will not be watching the Golden Globes tonight. I love Nikki Glaser. Why would I watch the Golden Globes, though? Why? I don't watch other comics. I'm the comic in my life, right? My life is comedy because the world is tragedy. That's why I'm a stand-up comic. And there would be no stand-up comedy, just like there would be no American culture at all, were it not for the performances against the grain of enslaved Africans and their descendants in this country, which is why I say African Americans should rule this country. We have yet to have an African American lead this country from the White House. We've had an African American in the White House. God knows the White House was built by African Americans. But make no mistake, my friends, Michelle Obama is an African American on both sides of her family tree. Barack Obama is an American on one side of his family tree and an African on the other. No shade. That's not disrespecting Barack. And it's not disrespecting Kamala Harris to say the exact same thing, only with a twist, which is that her father is well, a Caribbean man, and her mother, is her mother still alive? I don't recall, because I don't wish to remember the Kamala Harris era at all, except I don't believe in whitewashing history, so I will continue to recall it. On her mother's side, she's South Asian. And the New York Times repeatedly called her Black, not just erasing her South Asian heritage and her mother in the process, but also erasing the complex history of African peoples in the world. Now, I give it all up to Michelle Obama. I have misspoke about her own biography. I know I have. I said she was an executive of the University of Chicago hospital systems. She was an executive, but she was not an executive of the medical apparatus there. She was an executive of the community engagement apparatus there. And that makes all the difference to me, because these universities, and from what I can tell, Harvard, and I might be misspeaking here, Harvard has acted quite honorably in relationship to its surrounding communities, unlike the University of Virginia has, unlike the University of Pennsylvania has. I'm not going to speak on the University of Chicago, but I lived in Charlottesville, Virginia. I lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Benjamin Franklin was an honorable man. Thomas Jefferson didn't know what honor was, just like the other sexual abuser in chief we have right now, Donald John Trump, who says he's, I don't know, accountable to his own morality on the one hand, and on the other hand says he's not trying to hurt people. Let me not misspeak. All we've seen during Donald Trump's 2 terms in the White House thus far is his and his cronies deliberately hurting people. And now it looks like it's been contained. Trump's right. The Democrats will retake the House of Representatives in November, and he will be impeached for a 3rd time, and he will have to step down, because even Teflon Don cannot survive a 3rd impeachment. That inglorious bastard, BASTERD, roasting. Where does roasting come from? Because some of us have already roasted in this hell on earth that people like Donald Trump have made for us. My childhood villain, as I always like to say, Donald John Trump, a fraud from the beginning who didn't even serve in the military. Talk about respect for our uniformed brothers and sisters who include trans brothers and sisters. Don't ask, don't tell. Everybody knows my story of my political awakening. Bill and Hillary Clinton, who said one thing and did the exact opposite. Hillary changed her tune on everything, including the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And then Columbia University, through their apparatus of the School for International and Public Affairs, had the audacity to allow her to teach during the genocide in Gaza that she directly enabled. Remember, Democrats, Hillary Clinton lost the election in 2016 because she couldn't speak to Donald John Trump's record of sexual abuse because she enabled her husband, Bill, what's Bill's middle name? Jefferson? Clinton's sexual abuse, which she still is enabling, just like their daughter, Chelsea Clinton, continues to enable. So for all the outsized attention to the lie that Woody Allen abused his daughter Dylan against a mountain of circumstantial evidence, why is there no attention paid to the mountain of incriminating evidence? Guilty as charged for Bill Clinton, the sexual offender in charge. Make no mistake, Donald Trump rose to power because people couldn't stand the hypocrisy of the Clintons. And from my vantage, you don't need to say vantage point, my friends. I'm a master of rhetoric that is the anti-master of rhetoric. No spin, no shade. From my vantage, Bill Clinton has a hell of a lot more blood on his hands than Donald J. Trump does. And Melania, from what I can see, has no blood on her hands at all. But Hillary Clinton, Benghazi, Hillary Benghazi Clinton sure has a lot of blood on her hands. And she did not get her JD at Harvard. Neither did Bill Clinton. And much like Ronan Farrow does not have a PhD, but a DPhil, thank you, Carnegie Mellon University and Carnegie Hall. Chelsea Clinton doesn't have a PhD either, but a DPhil. And somehow she was allowed to write her thesis for her DPhil on her parents' foundation, which is nepotism of the highest rank order. Just like Ronan Farrow is a nepo baby of the highest rank order, and David and Megan Ellison are too. Me too. Miss me with the Golden Globes Hollywood Foreign Press Association until you have a new network backing you. I'm Sean MP. Ciao for now. Thank you, Google, YouTube.